Hello, welcome to my channel or welcome back if you've been here before. My name is Beth Ann, and today I am talking about a book that I got as part of the Queer Book Box, which is one of these, I want to say monthly, but I don't get it monthly, book subscription services. This one is run out of the UK, and I like it because it's not every month, because then I would have insane guilt for not reading the books that I get every month. I get a new book every other month, and I still have a hard time keeping up with them. And by hard time, I mean that I don't. But I have read a few that I'm overdue for talking about on BookTube. And if you don't talk about it on BookTube, did you even read the book? So anyway, here I am. It's a great book subscription service, as I was saying. It is specializing in books that are by queer people and are generally intended for a queer audience, using the word queer incredibly inclusively. And I like it because you can sign up for a very stripped down version, because I've always for years been interested in subscription book boxes, but they come with all this other stuff and I don't need stuff. So the Queer Book Box, the version that I've signed up for, as I said, every other month I get a book, and it literally just comes with a bookmark, and just a little pamphlet that sort of talks about why the people running the book service chose this book, a little bit about the author, maybe a little bit about where the book is sort of placed, like culturally and historically in queer literature, and a preview of like what might be coming next in the Queer Book Boxes. I hope I'm remembering what's in that pamphlet pretty well. And I have a curious cat. Pooh Bear, you don't need to be in the video. So the book that I read recently is Nevada by Imogen Binnie, which has a huge history as one of the, I think, early pieces of writing as a trans narrative by a trans person centering trans characters. And it was just absolutely brilliant and beautiful. I really, really love this book. It was hard to put down. I love the style of writing. You are just getting really pretty stream of consciousness narration from the heads of the main characters. And in particular, we follow two main characters. We follow a trans woman named Maria for a little bit over half the book. And then the second half of the book is told from the perspective of James, who thinks he's a regular guy. But as we get to know him a little bit more through that second half of the book, we realize that James is not a regular guy in terms of ascribing to binary male gender. And the really kind of main point of the book is when Maria and James actually meet. And so what does that do for both of these characters? So Maria, I guess I should back up a moment to say Maria is, I think, 29 in the book, so she's almost 30. She's had a pretty dead-end job working for a used bookstore in New York City for a number of years. She sticks with it for a variety of reasons that are explained in her brain in the book. She's been in a relationship with a woman named Steph for several years, I think 4 or 5 years at the point of this book. And as relationships tend to do, things have sort of fallen off the rails in a very quiet, undramatic way. And so from early on in the book, immediately in the book, we're sort of at this point where like, okay, Maria's personal relationship is potentially at a crossroads. And she's in this dead end job. And then over the course of that first half of the book where we're in Maria's narrative, things fall apart. So, as I said, I really loved this book. That said, there are a few issues that I had with it. So for one thing, and I feel really bad about this, but the back of the book did a poor job selling it for me. So this is a reprinting. Nevada was out of print for a number of years. And what the back of the book says is a short blurb. Maria is a young trans woman who, after several years of personal and professional failures in Bohemia, New York, is embarking on her version of the Great American Road Trip. James is an unhappy stoner who works in a Walmart in Star City, Nevada. After a chance meeting, the pair quickly form an unlikely, but powerful connection that will have big implications for them both. So, great. That made me think it was a road trip book. It is not a road trip book. So I really thought the road trip was going to start very early in the book, and Maria's like personal transformation would occur over the course of this road trip, and there would be the meeting with James, and we would get that. But I really thought the road trip would play a much bigger role and certainly would take up a much bigger space in the novel, like literally physical pages, but also bigger like temporal space, I guess. So of Maria, this for, I don't know if you can see, it's just slightly over half of the book is Maria's viewpoint, and it's only on the last page of Maria's viewpoint that she leaves New York City. So I was like, what? But it was amazing. And so again, like the back of the book didn't sell it very well, but I loved that lead up. Like I loved getting to know Maria. I loved hearing everything she was thinking or refusing to think about her relationship and her job. And a lot of that was just so universal, but then also had this trans experience and gender experience that is different than what I have as a cisgender woman. Um, but yeah, it was just, she's a beautiful character. I really liked her, even when she was being really frustrating and unlikable. Just great writing, great characterization. So I'm not complaining too hard about that, but it did sort of impact my view of the book. But then the other thing, and this is what makes the book a 4-star book for me instead of a 5-star book, is that the voices of all the characters are the same. So we have a little bit over the first half of the book is in Maria's head. The second half of the book, slightly less than the second half of the book, is in James's head. There are 2 chapters that don't follow that model. So we get 1 chapter from Maria's girlfriend's perspective, Steph, and we get 1 chapter from James's girlfriend, whose name I'm totally blanking on, Nicole maybe, from her perspective. And I like that. I like that you were spending so much time in depth in these characters' heads, because you really start to think of the character the way the character thinks of themselves. And so then it was really wonderful, I thought, to get just like a quick glimpse, because the chapter that we get from Steph's perspective, for example, is Steph thinking about her relationship with Maria. Um, and you see that other perspective, and it puts a lot of what you learned about Maria in a different light. And so I thought that was brilliant and really wonderful. Except that the way that all 4 of those characters like talk to themselves inside their heads, and like narrate to themselves, it was the same voice. And I'm not a writer, but I can imagine that it's incredibly difficult as an author if you're writing that much inside a character's head to differentiate the voices. And they just weren't different. It was the same voice. And so that drove me a little bit crazy, because then it took me out of the characters, and I felt like I was just, even though I was in the character's head, I felt like I was being told about the character once I had read a couple of them and realized what was happening. So I really didn't like that. But other than that structural issue, the book was amazing. The other thing about the book is that it doesn't go anywhere. This is not a plotty book. Like, you hear about what's going on in Maria's life and in James's life, and these little windows into those 2 other lives. But it's just very interior, just what the characters are going through in these brief spans. And then you don't get like a momentum that builds to a denouement, a big plot moment, right? So we don't actually know whether Maria solved all her life problems and found herself on this road trip. We don't actually know what happens to James. So they have like this pivotal, groundbreaking moment for both of them, and you could tell that it is, but because the characters aren't always the most self-aware people, like you don't sort of get to see them fully process what happened, and you don't get to see the aftermath. So if you're a plot driven reader, it's going to feel like the book just ended when things were just getting started, because it's actually a fairly short book, because it's a pretty quick read. As a character person, I actually just really love that, because we saw where the characters are, everything they've been going through. We learn a lot about their history and everything. We learn about how they're viewing the challenges in their lives at the moment, and then there is no ending. We're not told how it wraps up. We're not told any of the easy answers. So they can just keep living in my head, and I can wonder forever what Maria and James are doing now, these totally fictional people. So yeah, I just really loved it. So wonderful book. If you get annoyed by things like voices not being distinctive in your fiction, then that might annoy you a little bit, like it did for me. But absolutely, yeah, I really enjoyed this. So that's that. Have you read this book? What did you think about it? And I will see you all in the next video. Oh, sorry, I should have said way earlier. I will put a link to the Queer Book Box down below if anybody else is curious about it. And this video is going to be part of a playlist that I will continue working on. I think this is only the 2nd video in it, but a playlist where I talk about the books that I've gotten through the Queer Book Box. So stay tuned if you want to be able to see more of those as I maybe eventually actually do them. So, all right. There goes Pooh Bear. Thanks. I will see you in the next video. Bye.